Good morning, folks, or good evening here in Los Angeles, where it is about 5 p.m. on the 11th of June, and good morning in Sydney, Australia, where it's June 12th, a bright Monday morning at 10 a.m. And we are here going to speak with Doug Crawford, who was a North Pointer from 1940 to 1946. And so, Doug, I'm so happy that you agreed to this interview, and you know that there are many other senior North Pointers also that revere and look up to, because we all studied in the same school as you did, though not at the same time. So thank you for agreeing to join this interview, Doug. So tell me, before I ask you some questions, how are you doing today?
Today is fine. It's crisp and cold in Sydney in the winter, but otherwise it's a nice day. It's a public holiday, and we're shortly going to go to lunch at my daughter's place on the eastern side of Sydney, about an hour's drive away.
I can tell you,
So,
I can tell you, you look real good in the camera, and you don't look 90 at all. I mean, I would pass you at mid 70s or something like that. I have friends who are mid 70s who look as young as you.
well, I've been pretty active and fit all my life. We meet twice weekly, trying to keep fit.
So, could you please share with us one or two cherished memories you have of your time in school?
Well, firstly, I don't think I'm an early North Pointer because my understanding the school was there a long time before I arrived. In fact, I've even looked it up in Wikipedia, which showed that the date on the current site is about 1888, no, 1892 on the current site. So by the time I got there, it was well established, very well known around the area. And my understanding was it was considered the prime school in all of Southern Asia, because we used to have boys prior to the war starting coming from Burma and Persia and other places in between, and also uh, people coming from Tibet and Sikkim. So, as far as memories are concerned, one of the things that always stuck in my memory was when we returned to Calcutta at the end of the year on the train, which seemed to be full of North Point boys. At some point before we got to Harrow Station, I think it was Harrow Station, the train would stop and they'd fit the school badge on the front of the engine and would then roll into Calcutta with the North Point badge on the front. Was that memory? And another memory during the monsoon region, if we had an excessive amount of wet days and we had a fine day, then the whole school would gather in the quadrangle and shout up to the rector, "We want a holiday, we want a holiday." And inevitably, the request would be granted. And the other thing I remember was Birch Hill. We used to go for long walks up there, and it was very interesting. We didn't seem to, I wasn't conscious of any restrictions. We were allowed to go and we had to come back. I don't remember anyone trying to supervise us on the way. And another one we had, we make hot air balloons out of tissue paper and heat them, hang them from a pole in the quadrangle and heat the initial heat from a primer stove, and then when the balloon was filled up with hot air, old socks soaked in kerosene or something were tied in, they'd be lit up and the whole balloon would go off and wander into somewhere. Never knew where it landed, but obviously once the socks burnt off, the balloon came down. So they were wonderful days. I had a wonderful time there, and there's just a few memories. There's too many more. We could keep going for probably a good hour by the time I relayed all my memories.
Yes, that's that. Yeah, thank you. This is going to be a real short interview, but thank you. And some of those memories of yours are so common. I was in North Point from 1964 to 71, and we still had those sunshine holiday requests of the
Yes,
rector. So thank you so much
yes.
for that common feeling we all grew up with. I have the second question here is, could you tell us all about what you learned in school when you were there that has been useful in your life?
Well, the thing it was what I, in our terms here, is just being with the Jesuit education. I think it just was seamless all the way through, and I found it was one of the things you had to do was be respectful to others, um, but get involved wherever possible. So um, at North Point, I got involved in the, I suppose, what was it, the second division or something, in the fretwork shop. I don't know if it's still there, but and all sorts of other things. And likewise, when I got to review, I got involved in similar activities um, as well. So it was you expected to get involved. That was the main thing.
Yeah, I like that about the fretwork. I remember Bob Moss, Robert Moss. He's your contemporary. He lives in Toronto, and he also mentioned fretwork to me last year. And we did have fretwork while we were there in the late 60s, but it's not there when I visited North Point recently. So thanks for that. I'm glad that be respectful is one, get involved is another, and those are real good values to have. And sometimes I forget myself, so I'm going to keep that close to my heart. Here's my third question. You said that you visited North Point in 2004 with your wife, sorry, and that was really like about 60 years after you had left. So what kind of feelings, memories, emotions stirred up in you when you actually got into that school after so long?
Well, I think the first thing was when we approached there, it had gates on the front drive, which weren't there in my time. And I was told it was when there was some, I think, problems from Nepal, they were installed. And then going through, um, it, it was revisiting something that was so familiar, except I noticed that the main timber stairs, how worn they were compared to what I remember as a boy. But then since then, I've also trained as an engineer and probably a bit more concerned about wear and tear and things. But it was still how worn the main timber treads were. There's also, of course, brand new stuff like a swimming pool. Uh, that was just wishful thinking in our day. And also, I noticed that the senior boys all had their own rooms, whereas in my time, everyone was in dormitories. So they were the main sort of things. And also, we were conducted through and the kitchen was being upgraded at the time. My wife was amazed at the old, very old stuff that we used to feed hundreds of boarders over the years. She couldn't understand how those poor cooks kept going with that, what was, in her terms, very primitive equipment.
And all those large cooking utensils, it was sort of amazing for us too. How could they cook for 300 boarders when we were there at that
Yes,
time?
yes.
Nice. Those are great feelings. I have those feelings sometimes myself when I visit. So here's my last and final question, Doug. Based on your life experiences after having, of course, graduated from North Point, if there was one thing that you could advise or give us North Pointers and especially the young ones all around the world, what would that be?
I think respect everyone you come in contact with. Um, that's the main thing. And even if you disagree with people or you have an objection, do it respectfully. Um, now, for example, the other day, trying to get a coffee at the local coffee shop, one of the people there wasn't happy with what was served and got rather um, abrasive to the person serving. Well, I don't think that was necessary. I think, yes, you can raise an objection politely, and more than often than not, you'll get a polite, respectful reply. So I think that you treat people the way you'd like to be treated. I think that's the main thing I'd like to recommend to oncoming students.
Thank you.
That's sort of my main comment.
Sorry, I was silent because I'm thinking about the deep advice that you're giving us, and it's sometimes we forget. I forget myself, and it's really good to be respectful. And you shared that recent experience that you had around the corner at the coffee shop also. So
Yes, so it's a regular thing. I think I find if you are respectful to people, it doesn't matter what their status in life is, you get a good response from people.
that's nice. That's so touching. So just in the interest of time, to make all our videos short, people will not get distracted. I wanted to close in a few minutes. But before I close the interview, any last minute thoughts you might have to tell anybody?
Well, the thing that bothers me at the moment is the state of the world, politics. It bothers me. And um, also is climate change. Now, it's not going to worry me. I'm sort of approaching the last decade of my life. Southeast Asia, climate change is going to be a big, big problem. And I'm really worried as to where we're going.
Profound as well. So once again, Doug, I thank you so much for your time. Appreciate that, and we all will pointer with a good spirit in heart. Thank you so much, Doug.
Thank you, Ashok, and good evening to you. And I'm sure you're probably looking forward to a better time in the near future.
Yes, I hope that we will meet. Thank you, and you have a wonderful day.